Top 10 moments when things got physical on court cam.
Go now.
Everyone knows things in court cam can sometimes get a bit heated. Emotions are high, and it's sometimes tricky to remain calm. But that doesn't mean things should get physical, does it? Today I'll be showing you the top 10 moments when things got physical on court cam. Number 10. Melissa Hardwick. In court cam, things can sometimes get quite heated. This one woman, Melissa Hardwick, was being given a restraining order against her ex-husband for domestic abuse against him.
You and the respondent were married in the past and have children in common, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And were the statements you made in your petition true and correct at that time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you willing to make those statements part of your sworn testimony here today?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you asking the court to enter an order restraining the respondent from any contact with you?
But it was whilst he was explaining why he wanted a restraining order that Melissa decided to add in her own opinion.
I guess since the first of the year, and Melissa's had a couple MIWs and a couple arrests, and she got out of jail in, I guess, April, and she started, we hadn't really had anything personal up until that point. She got out of jail in April, and she
My
started...
personal life is
No.
none of your business, right?
The judge didn't take too kindly to the interruption and tried to warn the defendant that if she continued to interrupt, then she would be held in contempt of court. But of course, she didn't listen.
No.
You will be held in contempt of this court if you become
I don't
disruptive.
care. I haven't done anything to this court. I haven't done anything to
Okay.
him.
She will be
It
arrested
doesn't
for
make
contempt
any-
of the
It
court.
doesn't make any difference.
You will serve
Having enough, the judge sentenced Melissa to 10 days in jail for contempt of court. But Melissa took exception to this and showed her displeasure directly to the judge.
go now.
Stand by back.
Wait and see. Get my bracelet off the floor.
Obviously, the judge wasn't too pleased with her behavior, and Melissa was given 5 months in jail. After that time, she was presented to the court again and pleaded guilty to intimidation of a participant of a legal process. She avoided any more jail time by agreeing to attend a court-ordered diversion or rehabilitation program for 5 years. Number 9. Michael Huggenberg. During a jury selection process in Newport, Kentucky, things got a little hairy when defendant Michael Huggenberg tried to address the prospective jury himself.
Up in the direction of the potential jury.
Luckily, 2 guards notice that the man has moved and go to stop him. After a bit of cajoling, they manage to get him back into his seat.
2 deputies make their way over, preventing him from getting to the potential jurors.
But he doesn't stay down for long. After attacking the deputy, the second officer can be heard deploying his taser into Michael. Once on the floor, he is quickly placed under arrest and put into handcuffs. The entire time, he is protesting this, but he doesn't really have a leg to stand on after attacking an officer of the law.
These people, somebody come back here and say these people are under arrest.
Huggenberg continues to protest his treatment by deputies.
What are you doing to my arms? Nobody does.
He ends up spending 12 years in jail for his crimes. Number 8. Ricky Hand. In Springfield, Ohio, there has been a series of armed robberies on local stores. But when the criminal, Ricky Hand, tries to hit the store John's drive-thru, he got a nasty surprise when the owner fought back. After calling the police, Ricky was found and arrested. It turned out that he was a known career criminal, and the drive-thru wasn't the first store that he had robbed. After confessing to his crimes, he was given a trial at the local courthouse. But after hearing his sentence, he can't quite believe what the judge has said.
You just give me 40 years, sir.
Seemingly not expecting the harsh sentence, Ricky quickly pulls something out of his trousers and begins to throw it at the judge.
He's gave it 4 years. Well, guess what? Sir,
Luckily, he is handcuffed and isn't able to throw the item, which turned out to be a vial of his own urine and feces. The police then quickly tackle Ricky and try to get him under control. The entire time, though, Ricky is shouting obscenities. Suffice to say, it's clear he thought he was going to get a much less severe sentence. Number 7. David Chilston. In Cleveland, Ohio, David Chilston was taken before a judge on charges of arson and assault after some pretty nasty charges were leveled against him, including beating his girlfriend and then setting her house on fire. Chilston's bond was set at $1 million. After the judge tells him that his sentence is 47 years in jail, Chilston becomes noticeably agitated. Then he does the worst possible thing.
This very moment. And he is not happy about that.
Immediately after he starts attacking his attorney, police officers rush to the man's help and tackle Chilston to the floor. They then recuff Chilston, putting his hands behind his back instead of in front of him as they had been before.
The man he just attacked was his own attorney, Aaron Brockler.
Hey, yeah, you calm? Yeah. You know you messed up, right? You understand that, right? Okay? Listen, when I uncuff you, put your hand behind your back. Do you understand? Okay?
They're now cuffing him behind his back.
Relax your hand.
Chilston was then escorted from the courtroom into the holding cell below. He also faces an even longer sentence for his actions in the courtroom, meaning he could be in jail for more than the 47 years he was originally given. Number 6. Travis Davis. In Ocala, Florida, 4 men were being tried for first-degree murder and robbery. Travis Davis, Brandon Banks, Kelvin Grimmage, and Keila Richardson were all found guilty of the crimes. During the trial, a number of police officers stood in attendance, but they could have never guessed what would happen. As the judge was wrapping up the trial, one of the officers goes to handcuff Travis Davis, who takes exception to this action.
I've indicated that I would like to do is to have the gentleman hang on, Mr. Davis.
And he's not the only one. Kelvin Grimmage also starts to resist and fists start to fly.
He jumps in to assist.
Hang on, Mr. Davis.
Meanwhile, a third court officer attempts to handcuff Grimmage, but that doesn't go any better, and total chaos ensues.
Keila Richardson is already in his handcuffs, so he is led away from the fight. Meanwhile, it seemed that Brandon Banks was not trying to get involved as he stood calmly in his spot. Travis's lawyer gets caught up in the fray.
Davis's lawyer, Daniel Fernandez, isn't so lucky.
With the courtroom descending into chaos, one officer quickly takes things into his own hands to regain control.
Reportedly, all 3 men were tased, including Brandon Banks, who doesn't appear to join the free-for-all. One of the court officers appears to instruct everyone to clear the courtroom.
After tasing the 3 remaining defendants, they are finally put into handcuffs. On the way out of the room, though, Davis and Grimmage share some final parting words. All 4 men were sentenced to life in prison without parole. Number 5. Major Robinson. It's not just in the courtroom where unsuspecting things can take place. Being a prosecuting attorney can be quite a dangerous job, as Tim Meals found out. Tim was getting ready to go home after a long day at work. As he was walking down the hall, he failed to notice someone was following him. This would be a big mistake.
They're headed home for the night. But as the attorneys head down a hallway, someone is trailing them from behind.
The strange man calls out Tim's name, who turns around to see who it is. Things then escalate very quickly. Luckily, another attorney was with Tim at the time and jumped in to help him.
Walking in the rear of the attorney group is County Prosecutor Tim Meals. Unknown to him, a former defendant he prosecuted, 31-year-old Major Robinson, has been lying in wait with an apparent score to settle. After addressing Meals by name, Robinson cocks back and punches the unsuspecting attorney in the face. As the confrontation spills across the hallway, another county prosecutor, Tyler Eason, jumps in to help his colleague.
Finally, some police arrived and arrested the man for premeditated assault. It turned out the man, Major Robinson, had been prosecuted by Tim Meals in a previous instance, and he wanted revenge. Major later confessed to 2 counts of assault and 2 counts of willful injury and served 1 year in jail for his crimes. Number 4. Jesse Rose. We're heading to Australia now, where Jesse Rose has been arrested for attacking a pub security guard with a glass. The man is waiting to see what his sentence will be for his attack, with his attorney arguing that he is a changed man. The judge isn't buying it though, and sentences Jesse to 14 months in jail. The man instantly becomes enraged.
Another one wide open.
After kicking the door open and arguing with the police officers, Jesse then decides to take things a step further.
Throws not 1, but 2 chairs at the guards. Those are not folding chairs, Rose.
Whilst he is busy throwing the chairs at one guard, the second officer sneaks around the room and takes a chance to tackle Jesse.
Just tossed. Those are standard office chairs weighing up to 60 pounds, or 27 kilograms in Australia.
After finally getting the man subdued, he is handcuffed and escorted out of the courtroom. But his stunt didn't do him any favors, as an additional 8 months was added to his original sentencing of 14 months in jail. It doesn't pay to throw a tantrum in front of the judge. Number 3. Daniel Nicholson. Another man in Adelaide, Australia, also has his own opinions about his sentencing. Daniel Nicholson was arrested on weapons charges. He had previously been allowed out on bail and was back in court to hear whether he would be able to stay out of jail whilst awaiting his trial. The judge decided it was a resounding no.
What's going on, Father?
But before he gets an answer, Magistrate O'Connor shuts down the conversation.
Take a seat. Take a seat.
Miss, please, miss.
Please, miss. I'll tell you what please, miss is.
After pleading with the judge to change her mind, Daniel decides to take matters into his own hands. Clearly though, his escape plan doesn't go as he imagined it would, and he is quickly apprehended by a court officer. After finally subduing the man, Daniel is handcuffed and led out of the room. He is charged with attempting to escape custody and for harming a prescribed emergency worker. He is given 21 months in jail for his failed escape with an option of parole after 1 year. Number 2. Chance Mako. When we think of courtroom violence happening, we probably think that it's the defendant who is causing the trouble. But that isn't always the case. Chance Mako was at a juvenile hearing awaiting his sentencing in Wilmington, Ohio. The 17-year-old was charged with grand theft auto and robbery. The court bailiff, Jim Buckner, is called before the judge. As he walks past, he puts his hands on Mako's back.
His hand on the defendant just before he approaches the bench.
Mako clearly doesn't like this and tells Buckner not to put his hands on him. Buckner takes offense at this and decides to teach Mako a lesson, though it's one that definitely doesn't need to be taught so violently.
He grabs the defendant and puts him in a headlock. Buckner then pulls Mako further back on the chair, not letting go of his neck.
Amazingly, even though a police officer is right next to the defendant and Buckner, he does nothing to stop the man from choking the defendant. Things get even worse as Buckner decides to drag the 17-year-old out of the courtroom.
But it's not over. Buckner drags the teen across the floor, straight out the door. But this isn't where the story ends.
After this appalling scene, the deputy who was in the room whilst it was happening reported the incident to the sheriff's office. The video was then sent all the way to the Attorney General's office. In order to avoid criminal charges, Buckner resigned from his post and surrendered his peace training certification. As for Mako, he pleaded guilty to his charges and was sentenced to 72 months in prison. Number 1. Michael Madison. Facing the criminal who has hurt your family beyond anything imaginable has to be one of the hardest things for families to do. And this father simply couldn't hold back his rage. In Cleveland, Ohio, serial killer Michael Madison is on trial, awaiting his sentence. He has been charged with the murder of 3 young women. As part of the hearing, Van Terry, one of the women's father, is led to the stand to give a victim impact statement.
Right now, I guess we're supposed to, in our hearts, forgive this clown.
The man starts by addressing the judge, but soon turns to stare at Madison directly.
Taking my child.
He's looking directly at Madison.
His anger, hurt, and grief quickly get the better of him though, and in the next instant, he does something shocking. The court quickly descends into chaos, and Terry is forcibly torn away from Madison and restrained. Terry is then escorted out of the courtroom. Luckily, he is not charged with anything and is able to go free. Madison isn't so lucky, and instead, he is sentenced to death row. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a comment and like and subscribe for more shocking TV moments.